Hi, my name is Dr. Yolanda Tammaro, and I am a fellowship-trained breast surgeon and board-certified general surgeon. I work for Premier Surgical Network of New Jersey, and I am also the medical director of breast surgery for Ocean University Medical Center of Hackensack Meridian Health.
Hi, my name is Maybelline Hicks Samuel, and I am an image and etiquette consultant, also an adjunct professor, as well as entrepreneur, along with many other things that I do. I met Dr. Tammaro in 2017 when I was diagnosed with breast cancer. At the time, I was working on my master's degree and in grad school, and when I got the diagnosis, I was completely blown away, just shocked. And I was very fortunate to find Dr. Tammaro after I had researched many other breast surgeons in the area and as well as New York. And I didn't want to have to commute to New York. So after interviewing 3 surgeons, I decided to go with Dr. Tammaro, primarily because of her persona. Her frankness, her openness, and her knowledge about breast cancer is what did it for me. The men in my family, most of them are diagnosed with prostate cancer. That's the one thing, and I had no idea that there was a link between prostate cancer and breast cancer. That was eye-opening for me. But in terms of my mother or my sisters, no. Later, after my diagnosis and I started to do research, I realized that there was an aunt that did have breast cancer. I was diagnosed with stage 1 breast cancer, but it was malignant and aggressive. And once that cancer was diagnosed, I was told by my primary care physician that I needed to have a needle core biopsy. And at that point, just absorbing the news, first of all, that you have cancer, it took me a minute to process that. And once I processed it, I was thinking, okay, so I don't even know how to find a breast surgeon. What do I do? And my primary care specialist said, I think you should start with Hackensack Meridian at Ocean Medical. Go there and have them do a needle core biopsy. And this way you will know more about where you are and where the cancer is and what stage. And once I did that, Dr. O'Connor, he's a pathologist there, did the core biopsy, the needle core biopsy. And once that was completed, he says, well, you know, this looks aggressive. I think you need to find a surgeon. And I said, well, what do you recommend? He says, well, there's a couple I know, but I want you to do the research and I want you to make your choice. I don't want to just say use our breast surgeon. And I thought, okay, and I looked at a couple others whom I will not name, and then Dr. Tammaro. And I called him, I said, well, who is she? How is he? And then he says to me, Dr. O'Connor says, well, I think you should do your own investigation. And reading her bio online and looking at her picture, it was just something that exuded confidence and a warmthness. And I think any woman having breast care or needing breast care or having breast surgery, they really need to find a compassionate, skilled, competent breast surgeon. Someone that's going to tell you exactly what your options are. And Dr. Tammaro did that for me. Her smile, her warmth, it just put me at ease. It really put me at ease. She was just so genuine. There was a very genuineness that came across, and looking into her eyes, I got the feeling that she was very concerned about me as an individual, not an insurance card. Okay, I have great insurance, which is wonderful, but not an insurance card, but someone that really wanted to help me and ease my fears and concerns about breast cancer.
So Maybelline had a unique story in how she was diagnosed. She had gone for a chest x-ray, which showed a possible mass, and that led to an MRI, which then showed a possible breast mass. And that's when we had her undergo the mammogram and the ultrasound and the needle biopsy. And when she had those results of breast cancer, she came to see me. We offered her a variety of treatment options. We did do a breast MRI, and we saw that this was a small tumor, and it was in only one spot. So she was an excellent candidate for breast conservation surgery, where we don't need to remove the entire breast. We can just remove the tumor and some normal tissue around the tumor. Namely, that's called a lumpectomy. And we also discussed how we always check a few lymph nodes under the armpit at the time of that surgery with something called the sentinel lymph node biopsy. You know, we got very good news from the surgery. The tumor was quite small, the lymph nodes were negative. This was a stage 1 breast cancer. So we were then able to de-escalate treatment further by offering Maybelline something called partial breast irradiation, which is an accelerated form of radiation.
Yes.
Where we just radiate the lumpectomy site and not the entire breast. So as opposed to 4 to 6 weeks of radiation, we did that in about a week and a half.
Week and a half. It was 2 consecutive treatments for 1 week, and I had a total of 10 treatments, which was great.
And then even better news came when we had the pathology from the surgery. We sent the tumor out for another test called Oncotype, and that determines how likely the breast cancer is to come back somewhere else in the body over 9 years' time. And it's a genetic test on the tumor itself. So that came back as a low score, which is very good news because that means that it's a low likelihood of that happening and there was no benefit to any chemotherapy in Maybelline's case. So we were very excited about that, and we were able to treat her with hormonal therapy, which is a pill. And that is treatment that lowers the estrogen in the body and helps prevent the recurrence of breast cancer. And we give those medications for about 5 years.
I was over the moon, and I spent a lot of time in fear and worry that it would come back, and having very close friends that have experienced breast cancer, also having a very, very close mentor that passed away from breast cancer actually the week that I was diagnosed, and that was quite traumatic for me because with her passing away, I just felt that I would have a death sentence also,
Right.
not knowing. And that was a takeaway. That was really hard stuff, was just dealing with the fear. And then once I got over and got past the fear and talking with Dr. Tammaro and explaining to me how lucky I am and the likelihood of it not coming back, and I thought that was just the best news ever. And also, if it should come back, we're armed to deal with it. We have the technology and we have the resources to deal with it. So that's very important and a big plus.
I think a good point that Maybelline brought up before is treatment of the individual. So that's very important. We don't just treat the cancer, we treat the individual.
Absolutely.
And one of the ways we can do that is through a multidisciplinary approach to treatment, which is very important to us. So, you have the breast surgeon who is the leader of the pack, but you also have emotional support from nurse navigation. You have medical oncologists, radiation oncologists, radiologists, pathologists, physician assistants, everyone working together to create a comprehensive treatment plan. And to know that each breast cancer is different for each individual that is diagnosed with breast cancer.
Sure, and on that note, you're absolutely correct, because I would not have made it without the support of Nicole Stavros, which at the time was the nurse navigator, and Dr. Miller, my radiologist, which was just phenomenal, and Dr. Levitt, Dr. Michael Levitt, my oncologist. And these individuals, these professionals have become an intricate part of my life, because I still have to go for my testing, routine testing, every 6 months with Dr. Levitt. So yeah, you do need a complete team, and that support must be there in addition to family support. For me, faith is a very important of my foundation, and I think I made it through the breast cancer believing in God and having a spiritual component to life. And through spirituality and my faith, I was able to conquer fear. And for most women, that's what consumes us. The fear of the societal influences, how people perceive us once we're diagnosed with breast cancer, for me, that was big. And being an image consultant, public speaker, I'm often in front of people. And coming back from breast cancer 3 months later, I had a seminar, and it must have been 50 to 75 individuals. And during that seminar, my primary focus was on, do they know? Will they know I've had breast cancer? Do I look like I've had breast cancer? And what are they going to say? I think that's one of the big things with women. We are so afraid of the shame and the stigma that's associated with breast cancer. And that brings me to the book. That was why I wrote that book. And it's unveiling that stigma and that shame, wherein we don't want to talk about it. We don't want to tell anybody that we have it, not even our family, because we're afraid of what they're going to say. And perception, because some women do lose their hair. Many women do burn. Many women, if they've had chemotherapy, their nails turn very dark. So their eyelashes, they lose their brows. So aesthetically, we're struggling with, do we look odd to people? You know what I mean? Do we look odd? What are they gonna say about me? And we hide because we're ashamed. And the book, Touched by Cancer, Loved by God, is nothing more than a vehicle to help women learn to love themselves and embrace themselves in spite of breast cancer. Because breast cancer should not define our physical attributes. I don't want other women to feel the way I felt, particularly when I was doing that seminar, that once you're diagnosed and you have a fabulous, amazing breast surgeon like Dr. Tammaro, and she tells you it's going to be okay, you know it's going to be okay. And I think she made me know that it wasn't a death sentence, and you will have a healthy life. Right. After this, you will go on and you will do bigger and better things. So don't be consumed by it. That's what I took from Dr. Tammaro. It was like, you got this. It's going to be okay. And that gave me the courage to fight. That gave me the courage to fight and not be defined. But how often do we have breast surgeons that are not a Dr. Tammaro? I've met a particular patient, and she had given up all hope, and I wrote about this individual in the book. I was just so devastated because she did not have the opportunity to meet a Dr. Tammaro. And when I tried to re-guide her, it was as if though all of her hope had died. And I was like, you just really need to, you really need to hold on a little bit longer. So yeah, that's, and from her story, from Dr. Tammaro's story, I just remember her saying, and during the conversation about her mom had passed away from cancer when she was younger, and that's why she chose the profession to help people. So,
and having that experience in my life, I think certainly made me become a more sympathetic doctor.
I get it.
More understanding, more compassionate, and also recognizing that, of course, we're treating the individual with breast cancer, but we're also treating the caretakers. And we need to support the patient, but we need to support the caretakers too, the family members, the friends, whoever is involved in the caretaking. Because my family were caretakers, and I saw how affected they were. So that was one way that affected me. I also think in Maybelline, what I saw was, yes, in the beginning, fear. And I was happy to try to alleviate that fear for you. You always approached the treatment, however, with grace and with much spirituality. That never changed. But the change that I saw was once the treatment was done and the courage came out, you really turned it into, okay, now I'm gonna focus on advocacy.
Absolutely.
And that was really important to me too, because we do need to get the word out. We do need to explain to women that most of the time we're going to be able to cure your breast cancer. And I was so proud of you for being able to put that into a book that hopefully millions of women can read.
I'm hopeful. I am so hopeful because so many women won't go to the doctor because they're too afraid of finding out if they have breast cancer. And again, it's because of the shame and because of the stigma. And in doing research, I read a very powerful article about the actress, the late Diana Carroll, one of my idols, one of the people I really looked up to, shared the same position that I shared. She didn't want anyone to know. She says, I didn't speak up, and the one regret she had was not speaking up and not talking about breast cancer because I didn't want anyone to know, because I didn't want them to say, oh, that poor soul. And I thought people would say that about me if they found out I had breast cancer. I thought they would say, oh my God, I can't believe that poor thing. And I didn't want to be referred to as that poor thing or that person. Unfortunately, with Dr. Tammaro, once my treatment was completed, she kept just saying, okay, you're going to be fine, you're going to be great. I had the courage to go out there and actually work again, because I was about not to work. I was about to fold up. After working 30 plus years in the fashion and beauty industry, I was about to exit stage left because I didn't want anyone to associate me with breast cancer unknowing, and that is vanity at its height. But it's also ignorance. It's ignorance because I was very ignorant as a woman to breast cancer. I never thought I would get it. I thought you would get it, or you would get it, or the other woman would get it, but right. I never in a million years thought I would ever have breast cancer, ever.
Which brings up such a good point. Regardless of any family history or risk factors, 1 in 8 women will simply develop breast cancer. And the risk factor there is having breasts. That's the risk factor, right? So what we need to do is, get the word out there even better that early detection saves lives, right?
Absolutely.
So I think a lot of women don't go for the mammogram because of the fear, oh my goodness, if they find something, then I might have to go through treatment. Yes, but if we find something in its earliest stages, we can perform minimal treatment like we were able to do with Maybelline.
Absolutely.
So that's why Maybelline story is so important, because it can alleviate fear. And then also the importance of our story, like I said, was the fear turned into advocacy.
Absolutely.
Which is fantastic.
I'm an advocate for breast cancer now, a lifelong advocate, and that will be one of my missions. It's not about the book or selling a book. I could care less about that, but it's about passing on information. It's getting the information out there that once you have breast cancer, it doesn't mean you're going to lose your breast, because that's what I thought. When I saw you, I was like, oh, she's a surgeon, I'm losing my breast. Without even knowing all of the facts and being, not educated on breast surgery. It was like, okay, I'm going to lose my breast. I'm not going to have breasts anymore. Oh my God, what are people going to? And the first thing you say is, what are people going to say? Because believe it or not, society does influence how we feel about ourselves. I hope that they are more compassionate when they see a woman that does not have eyebrows or a woman that does not have hair. I hope that society will become less judgmental, because we tend to be a very judgmental society, and that's one of the hopes. It's just that stigma of the word breast cancer will be eradicated. The stigma, I would like to eradicate the stigma of the disease. And as much as we say today that it's different or we're making strides, the stigma is still there. And I think if you talk to any woman that's been diagnosed with breast cancer, she will say, yeah, the stigma is still there. It's a stigma. The book will actually be on sale the mid-October. It'll be at Barnes & Noble's, any of your bookstores. It'll be on Amazon. It'll be everywhere. Newsstands, all of the Hudson newsstands, you will be able to find it. And it will be coming out in hard copy as well. However, I just have the paperback today that's available.
It's incredible, and it's immensely satisfying to even be mentioned in the book. You know, it's just so incredible for me because it's reassuring me that I am really doing what I set out to do. And that is, I wanted to do everything I could to help cure people of cancer and become such an intricate part of their lives and make an impact in their lives. And that's just incredible for me.
And I feel that without Dr. Tammaro's medical attention to my cancer, that perhaps there would not be a book. And when I met Dr. Tammaro, I was in a very bad place, a dark place, and I talk about her in the book. I think it's maybe chapter 19. I talk about her being a bright light in a dark place because I was in a very dark place, and she was the light in that tunnel that helped me find my way out of that tunnel.
Thank
and
you.
I'm grateful.
Thank you.
Forever grateful for that.
Thank you.